How's it going, guys? It's Eclipse here, and today we take a look at the brand new tanks coming into World of Tanks console very soon with the next update tomorrow. So of course, if you're interested in finding out all about these new tanks, then stay tuned. We'll be going over the information that we've been given by Wargaming, how they'll particularly play within the game, and then kind of give you their costs, the backgrounds, and more, and then hopefully this will give you a good understanding of each of the tanks themselves. So, of course, we've the two new tank lines, or the two new styles of tank. You've got the tank destroyers, and you've also got the new light tanks. Now, of course, if you want to pick up these tanks, they all come from the T-44. If you manage to elite your T-44 before these lines become available, you will be able to have both the SU-122-54 and the PT-76 instantly unlocked after the update. So make sure that you elite the T-44A. That means you won't have to research both of the new tanks in the SU-122-54 and the PT-76. So this is really, really crucial for those of you wanting to maximize your time. If you don't have the longest amount of time to spend on the game, then this will basically allow you to get there faster. The new tank destroyers, what are they? Well, you have the SU-122-54, the Object 268, and the Object 120. Of course, the only new tank in quotation marks, considering they all have different statistics to the World War II mode, but they are similar tanks in the form of the SU-122-54 and the Object 268, but the Object 120 is completely brand new, one that we haven't seen before. Kind of acts like the SU-130 PM, but at this higher tier and different kind of style of gameplay. Now, then we have the new light tanks, which come in the form of the PT-76, which is the beginner one, the BMP-1, BMP-2, and BMP-3 respectively. So you'll be able to purchase all of these, and we'll get through the purchase costs of them all in just a second. Now, SU-122-54, well, in the name, of course it gets a 122mm main gun. It's going to have really, really nice DPM for its tier or era. You're going to be able to dish out damage very, very quickly. Unfortunately, it's kind of one of those mid-line tanks, so you're not going to be able to be the top daddy within the tier. You're probably not going to have the best DPM in the post-war era at which it is featured in. That will probably be lending itself to the Object 268, but we'll get over that in a second. As far as the weak points of this tank, of course, you've got these cupolas on the top, which you can pen with every single tank. The lower plate, and often straight through the upper kind of angled hull armor or superstructure of this tank. Of course, if it tries to angle, you can go for this flat plate, which will become less angled, and so you'll be able to go through it. So if you're interested in actually penetrating this tank, those are kind of the key weak points. Of course, if you get the side armor, just shoot it anyway. You're going to be able to pen. Every single tank in the game will be able to pen. And if you want to aim for the fire, then of course aim for the engine deck or just below it when you're firing at the side or rear of the tank. Now, it does cost you 3.46 million silver, which is fairly standard for the game mode. Of course, most of them are that much. Yes, you will be able to earn a lot of the money back if you play some premium tanks, and of course if you've completed the season pass, you will have got the MOBAT. And of course, don't forget that in the previous update news, we covered the new premium Cold War tanks that are coming into the game as part of the new season, which will be able to actually, once you've ground out, be able to use them to actually earn tons and tons of silver. I've been earning 400 to 500,000 silver per game, which is really, really good. Then moving on, we have the Object 268 version, one basically. There isn't a version at all. This one costs 4.4 million, just under. You'll be able to basically get this tank after the SU-122-54, and it comes in at the post-war era, so it will be the top daddy tank destroyer at that tier. You'll also be able to put the 152mm M64 gun, which basically is one of the best tank destroyers within the game at this tier. You'll be able to dish out a lot of damage very, very quickly with this tank. It's a really fun one to play on World War II, and I'm sure that it will be just the same on Cold War. The armor model of the tank doesn't particularly work too well. You've got this cupola on the right hand side as you're facing it. Right here you can see it, this kind of horn, and then of course if it angles at all you can hit this upper plate, and you can also hit this plate here to the side of the mantlet. And yeah, it's not particularly the best tank, and of course you do have that lower plate as well that you can hit in this tank should you want to aim for more weak points, which is located here on the screen right now. Of course, if you want to then progress further in the line and you want to move up to the Escalation era as one of the only tank destroyers in that era, you will be able to move up to the Object 120, which is a brand new novel tank. This one will cost you 5.4 million and will connect back to the T-72A. Of course, you have to play the Object 268 to get this tank, and yeah, you'll be able to actually go back to the line. So it's just an alternative route to be able to get to the T-72A should you want to. This one has a 152.4mm gun, which is somewhat similar to the SU-130PM. This one will hit harder though, so you'll be able to deal more damage with this gun. You'll reload very, very quickly. If you've played the SU-130PM before, you'll know exactly what this is like. This tank has turret armor, so you will be able to bounce maybe a couple of rounds if they hit the angled part of the turret. Of course, it is quite boxy, so you'll be able to get penned in the side of it, and I'm sure the back of the turret is also very weak, although we don't have the statistics exactly as of the recording of this vehicle. But on Monday or Tuesday, even in the morning, British time, you will be able to actually test it out yourself, see what the statistics are, and take this kind of insight with you. Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting one. Definitely think that this is the line I'm going to go down on the Eastern Alliance to be able to get to the T-72AV eventually. Yeah, definitely the one I'm looking at going down. Then, moving on to the light tank line, of course we have the PT-76, which comes off of the T-44A, the beginner post-war tank. It costs 3.46 million, as with the other tank destroyer, the SU-122 56, and then this one is your traditional light tank. Now, it basically is designed for armed reconnaissance, so yes, it does have a gun, but it's particularly not going to be able to deal loads and loads of damage all in one go. It's an amphibious light tank, so it has a boat-shaped hull, so it's a bit like, I guess, the American tank in terms of how it actually is shaped. You will be able to pen this very, very easily. It's very boxy on the side, very boxy on the lower plate, and I'm sure the turret armor is not particularly that great either. So yeah, I think that this is going to be interesting. I think it's going to have top speeds that are quite high. You'll be able to get around the battlefield fairly decently, and the gun actually looks like it'll probably deal maybe 400 damage per shot, maybe, although it could be like 300, but right now we don't know exactly how much damage this tank will do, and so you kind of have to leave it up to your own opinion. Then as we move through the era, you will have the Escalation era tank, which is the BMP-1. Now this is 5.4 million credits, which will be needed in order to unlock this. It comes from the PT-76. It does fire ATGMs, so you will have missiles on this tank, which is really, really nice. You'll be able to compete with things like the Arctic Hiss, that absolute monster of a tank. And of course, if you do want to be able to pick up this tank, you will have to play the PT-76 and the T-44A. This tank then leads on to the BMP-2, so it will come in as the initial era, Escalation era tank. Then you'll move on to the BMP. This one has a 73mm gun, which in my opinion will probably be dealing, let me think about it, probably like 150 damage per shot, maybe 200 damage maximum maybe. And then you'll be able to deal a lot of damage. As far as this actually how it works, it is yet again an armoured personnel carrier of World War II. Unlike it, it now has all welded steel construction, so this isn't actually a armoured personnel carrier of World War II. Of course, this is the post-war era, and it will have these anti-tank guided missile system and fitted with full nuclear, biological and chemical filtration. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about the tank itself, and yeah, definitely is one of those tanks that's going to be able to get into position very quickly using the speed, and yeah, I think it's going to be very, very interesting to have in the game. Of course, if you want to take a closer look at what it looks like, this is how it will actually look. Very low profile, turret is very, very hard to hit, so you probably won't ever want to go for that. Of course, with most of the light tanks, the side armor is going to be pretty trash, and the lower plate is going to be also pretty awful. I wouldn't try and hit the upper plate because it's so well angled, and you'll probably just bounce with an auto ricochet. Now, moving on. The Escalation era top tank, I believe it is, you will be able to pick up the BMP2. Now this will set you back 7.23 million credits and will basically come in as the bottom or the top tier light tank within Escalation era. It will unlock with the BMP1, so like the previous tank, and then it fires ATGMs as well, so you'll be able to deal that 1000 damage approximately with these missiles. Not entirely sure 100% how much that's going to be. I think that these will come in with the ability to actually have ridiculous elevation. So yes, it does. It comes in as well with a 73mm gun on the turret of this tank, which will be able to deal basically a bit of damage like the previous one, but it's been swapped out, so no longer will you have the 73mm gun on this thing. You may be able to get it straight away depending on if it's upgraded or not. It will depend upon which gun you can get. But initially, I think it gets the 30mm automatic gun capable of increased accuracy, 2 rates of fire, and elevation up to 74 degrees, which means that people on ridgelines above you, they're going to have a real big problem when they're facing you. So yeah, this is going to be a very interesting novel tank that I will want to get my hands on. It will have this autoloader, I believe, in-game, a 30mm one, so it'll probably be dealing, like 60 damage per shot, but you'll probably have a clip of about 10 or 15 or something ridiculous, so you can pull up, scrap, deal your damage all in one to the back of the tank, and then leave very, very quickly after that using the speed of these light tanks. And of course we don't know the actual speed because Wargaming don't actually give us the statistics until the update's released, but I guess you'll find that out tomorrow as of the recording of this video, and if you're watching it after then you already know the statistics of the vehicle because it will be on the game. This is how it looks in game. Looks very interesting, looks quite nice. I think this is definitely something I want to get in the game. And then of course our third and final kind of high-end BMP is the BMP3. This will cost you 8.25 million credits. Comes in at the Detente era, which is the highest era in the game that you can possibly get on Cold War. It does fire ATGMs as well, which is the guided missiles like the other Russian tanks in the game. It has a 100mm gun, was mounted on a 2-person turret, and was capable of firing the laser-guided anti-tank gun missiles, as well as conventional ammo. So you will also have a 30mm autocannon and 3 7.62mm machine guns bolstered its firepower. So I don't believe you'll be able to use the 30mm autocannon or the 7.62 unless they bring in the multi-turret, which it could be potentially a possibility, but we don't know entirely. And so your best bet is to just think it's the 100mm gun, probably have 350 or 320 alpha damage unless it's bolstered for the new game mode and the hit points that you have on the Cold War. Maybe it will be 400 damage per shot, but you can't be expecting it to be dealing thousands of damage, at least unless you're firing the ATGMs, which are the missiles. Then yeah, maybe you will be doing 1000 damage per shot. Well, that is all of the vehicles. If you want to check out the BMP3, then you can do so on screen right now, or alternatively, you can go to the Wargaming website titled console.worldoftanks.com to be able to check these tanks out yourself. And of course, let me know what you think of all of these tanks in the comment section down below. Hope you did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button and also subscribe for more. And a big thank you to everyone that's watched this video, and of course, the channel members for watching and supporting the channel even further. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.